So our next speaker, we were talking, and I think about school experiences and how you have the student who looked out the window. I recently had a discussion where we were talking about, well, students now, they're distracted by their mobile devices. What were they distracted by before? And I remember so clearly in 7th grade looking out the window of my classroom. I was lucky enough to have windows in my classroom. And looking out, and I actually remember seeing a house drive by the street. And they were moving the stoplights so that the house could fit underneath the stoplights. And that's what I did to pass my time when I was bored. And now we see our students who might be zoned out. And you've seen so many examples of ways that our faculty are engaging our students and getting them more active and excited about learning so they're not bored in the classroom. Our next speaker, Wang, took it a different way. He was bored in school, wasn't necessarily engaged, so he created his own company to find better ways to engage our students. So please welcome Wang. Thanks so much, Nai.
Thank you. Building a smarter learning system. I'm founder and president of KP Education Systems, and KP stands for Knowledge in Practice. Now, we put that into practice because this is what I really, truly believe in. I want to take you through a 15-year journey. It didn't happen overnight, where I bootstrapped a private, for-profit, we know the P words, a 5-letter word, sometimes 4-letter words, sorry. But we took this journey because we wanted to do something different and something amazing. So, first off, I want you to imagine with me a new world where every single student has a personal tutor. Now, this tutor helps encourage the students to learn, gives them advice, and also encourages them through their testing, and then figures out where their faults are. And this tutor goes throughout kindergarten, middle school, high school, and on to college, and follows the student all throughout his lifelong learning. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah, but not very practical, isn't it? Unless if you're really, really, really rich and dedicated. Now, that world I'm describing is something that I'm trying to imagine. So first, let's assess the current state of education. As we know, there are problems. The famous person once said, "The only thing that interferes with my learning is my education." This guy said it, Albert Einstein. So, right now, assessments are king. Everybody is focusing on assessments. Common Core State Standards, assessment, assessment, assessment. And because of that, we are teaching to the test, which we know are not effective at all. So there has been no real change in the entire system because it's still the same. It's built on a factory model of education that was really created in the 1920s because we were trying to get people educated enough to work in these factories, so everything was focused on one size fits all. And they didn't have enough technology or manpower to be able to do that. So, on top of that, the system didn't work for me. I was bored, as you heard, disengaged. I actually fell asleep in math class a lot because the class was moving so slow. It was moving at a pace that I couldn't handle. So I became disengaged. I got average grades, and I didn't really do well in class. I was also English as a second language, and as you can probably see, ADHD is a little problem. So let's go on, and I wanted to make my dream happen and build a system that worked for me. So as we're here at Tech Talks, we all understand that technology is the solution for everything. In the past 5 years, we've seen a huge boom of online technologies that are making major waves in how students are learning. But the problem with a lot of things I've seen is that it just substitutes what current teachers are doing in the classroom. There's really no change in the pedagogy. Everything that I've seen is always developed as teacher-centric. Develop the tools to make your lives a lot easier, and not really focus on the student's experience and in making their lives a lot easier and more successful. So let's go back to the story. In the beginning, when things got started, I had the privilege of developing a culinary arts curriculum that was done right here at SCC, where they first piloted it many, many years ago, and became guinea pigs at the same time. Because I developed a piece of curriculum with the angle of technology as the backbone of what I wanted to do, year over year, I kept innovating on that. We had some challenges. First off, we follow the KISS principle. Keep it simple. And S stands for stupid. Keep it simple. The next thing is, we also follow the SAMR model of technology integration. And our biggest focus is right there. Redefinition of technology, not just as substitution, augmentation, or a modification of what we do, but we want to redefine how that happens. So it gave us a really unique opportunity because we had curriculum that we're developing and technology solutions for, as opposed to the opposite side of a technology company developing a solution for curriculum. Because we had to make it work for our customers, and we had to make it very effective. So kept experimenting, trying things, learned from our successes and some of our failures at the same time. So what we did was we learned that there was a relationship between content and outcome rather than being separate. A lot of people say, yeah, you adopt this book and the students get A, B, or C, but it has nothing to do with the content, right? But we're actually marrying the two together. So one of the problems that we had in culinary arts education is we had to get these artistic, hands-on learners who wanted to just go and cook to learn book materials. That was the hardest thing. They had to learn math, they had to learn safety procedures, they had to learn these things that they had to memorize, understand, and regurgitate and synthesize. So the solution that we came up with is we had to break the information into bite-sized pieces into what we call concepts and provide them very good constructive feedback. So that's when we invented a new form of system called the Automatic Remediation and Mastery System. So what that simply means is, let's go back to that tutor analogy again, is that every single student will get a personalized learning experience. So we use this tutor analogy because we want to personalize this entire experience. It's not just a robot, it's something that actually interacts with you and becomes something that you can really rely upon. So first thing we did was we break things into micro concepts. So as you're seeing here in this illustration, we have our concept pages. So each of those that link to videos, text, animation, whatever the content is to reinforce those concepts. And we track everything at a granular level because we break everything rather than a linear volume into these concepts. So teachers can actually mix, match, change things around, and the system will adapt to it. So they can completely personalize each of these modules. So you can take something out, put something in, you can do whatever you want with it. But they come standardized, and I hate canned curriculum, so go ahead and decan it. So what we want to do is flip assessments upside down and turn it from something that creates anxiety into something that the students can use as a constructive tool. So we use formative assessments. Everyone knows formative assessment is a very effective tool, but we do it in a higher level way. We use item response theory and abundant assessments. And what that basically means is that there's intelligence built into this entire system. With IRT, what happens is, think of me as a tutor, and I have a stack of questions, and I administer it to students. Eventually, I'm going to start to learn that if I give this question to students, 80% of them get them correctly. So what does that mean? It's an easier question. So I might reserve that for later down in a remediation stack. But if I give a question that's like, let's say, 40% answered correctly, I'll know that it's more challenging. So I, as the tutor, will start to learn, and rather than somebody saying, this is a hard question, this is the easy question, I start to learn and start to understand the behavior. Excuse me. So because of that, I actually get to decide which questions, and we don't repeat until they get it right. We incorporate Bloom's taxonomy into it, which is what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the students to get to the lower level stuff effectively so they could spend more time doing the higher level Blooms and create. And we want to make it constructive. And feedback is king. It's all about the feedback that you get. And for me, feedback is all about video games. I'm a huge video gamer. I've been video gaming forever. And one of the things that really occurred to me was this theory here about how video games and entertainment correlate to education. So over here on your left is cartoon characters. So as a kid, what you do is you sit in front of the booth tube and you're watching these characters. You identify with these characters, and you become entertained with it. So you're sitting there passively absorbing the information because that's the way you've been trained to do it when you're a kid. Then you go into the classroom, you're sitting in nice, neat rows in the classroom, and you're being lectured at, just the same. So come in the 80s, we have video games. Mario, Solid Snake, Link from Zelda, Sonic the Hedgehog. So I played all these video games. And the difference is that instead of being passively entertained, I'm here actively engage in the system. I'm actually controlling the destinies of these avatars and making decisions on what to do next. So if I take Mario and jump into a hole and die, then what do I do next? I avoid that. So I continue to go through this process until I've passed the level and or mastered the level. So that's a direct correlation between education. So instead of going to that class and the kids are sitting there going, okay, where's my control? I don't have any. Disconnect. And then just like the graphs showed, their brains turn off. That's like me. So I play these games, and the best part is they want to be masters and control their own education destiny, just like they do in the games. So gamification, a big buzzword. It's a very important fact because it merges my passion, my third passion, video games, into the entire system. So what we have here is we have remediation. They get to go through over and over again. We don't care how many times. There's an extent, but we want them to take it as much as they want. Behavioral training. One of the things that we do with that is we actually tell them did they do better or did they do worse. And we also want to build them confidence. So what you're seeing here, this is just a quick snapshot of what a student would see. The colors you see in the square box is me as a tutor saying, hey, those green boxes, you did really well. You proved to me that you know that information. Yellow, you have some improvement. And then red, oh gosh, you really got to go back and study that information again. So I'm telling you what you should go, but I'm not telling you what you got wrong. I'm just telling you these are the areas of focus. In fact, I'm going to remove those green blocks topics so that you're not bored with the same information over and over again. So we're just focusing on the remediatable elements that are on the other colors. The triangles represent training. So it's part of behavioral modification. If they do lots of red arrows going down, well, then I'm not going to jump and die in the hole as Mario. I'm actually going to beat the level. I'm going to make more green arrows go up, and then eventually go fight Bowser and rescue Princess Peach. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get them instant feedback so they know that, hey, if I do really poorly, maybe I could change and behave my behavior so that I get more green arrows going up rather than red arrows pointing down. So the last thing is the button down there. The red button is a test, but you notice that it doesn't say test, quiz, or assessment. We changed the language. We want them to not use it as something that's threatening, but we call it check your knowledge because it's like going to a checkpoint in a game. Check your knowledge. We want you to check your knowledge as many times as you need to get the feedback you need to succeed. So the results we've seen here is that the teachers who are using it have gotten 2 to 3 times the rate of learning. We are working in job corps centers where the students are not the best available, but they're learning things faster, quicker. They're learning things and remembering it longer, and increases their engagement, which is really important. And teachers, they get to see everyone at a snapshot, which lots of other people use the same thing, so it's nothing too novel. But the key is here, this. You see the numbers? The numbers represent the effort that they put into, or the number of times they've engaged with the student, the tutor. So 24, that's okay. 17, not a problem. 1, okay, they got it. So we want them to continue to do it that way. So our next challenge is how do we build more intelligence into this whole entire system? So we built an adaptive artificial intelligence as part of the whole entire makeup. And for everybody, it's all about data. Google has made their fortunes because they're harnessing the data of search engines and everything else that they're doing and mining it and actually doing constructive things. But the things that you guys probably experience most is Amazon and Netflix. So you know that when you go to these sites, they tell you and they suggest things for you. That's because they're tracking your behavior. They actually know you better than you know yourself. They're actually interacting with you. So they built a personal shopper, a personal movie picker, and made this for you because they're building a profile on you. Same thing is, we're doing Big Brother, but a whole entire different way in education. And the beauty of that is that now we could actually build things more. So first thing I want to ask is, what is an assessment? Is an assessment just an endpoint exam where you grade something against a rubric? No, it's not actually. What it is, it's anything that you can measure. So we actually program 200 to 300 assessment points for every single student in the system. We actually are watching them as they learn. We might not know the content of what they learn, but we're kind of watching them. So because what we're doing is we're actually starting to learn their behavior. We're taking that information and we're actually understanding how they learn, what they learn, and because of that, we can actually do some really amazing and crazy things. Like, we could actually personalize the experience. But on top of that, we could actually do content course correction. So we can actually modify the content in such a way where it actually makes them have higher success. We can actually do comparative analysis. Let's say student A is successful and student B is less successful. What are the gaps between the two students so that we could get student B on track to student A? We could actually measure that and start to see some corollary data because of that. And one of the big things is dropout prevention. If we understand their behavior and their behavior suddenly changes, then we can actually send notice to a counselor, the teacher, or whoever it needs, and say, hey, this student here is about ready to fall off the cliff. Let's go intercept them before they do that. The last thing here is big data analytics. Fortune 500 companies, they use it all the time to make their companies more and more profitable. Here, we want to encourage student success. So we do performance reports. We could actually understand how the students are doing, and we actually run reports versus like student to student, student, teacher to teacher, teacher, district, district, and we can actually run some really great correlated data, which actually allows us to do something that's really amazing as a publisher, is content effectiveness. Instead of understanding if a book creates more pass-fail, we can actually go down to the micro concept level and measure things at a granular level. So we know which concepts are more effective, which ones are least effective, so we could tune that up and make it even better. Really great things to measure. So we're trying to build the lifelong learner. And what that means is that every single student needs to have a learning profile. And that learning profile moves with them all throughout their lives. We're actually tracking them on a mastery level of every single concept, rather than, hey, they got a D in biology, a B in physics, a C in math. We actually can understand every single concept that they've mastered and actually be able to pull that up within their profile and analyze that. Project-based learning is huge. And what we want them to do is engage in projects collaboratively and individually so they can earn digital badges. Badging is a big thing. It's a huge thing in video games. So that they actually have something to show for. They can put together in a digital backpack or a digital resume, which then they could take on from their school to college to work and beyond. And it follows them as long as they go. So the best thing about this is the system gets smarter over time. Because it starts to learn, it starts to understand, it starts to build correlations. And it's content agnostic. All we need is content and good questions and in a good structure, and we just plug it in, and the system will start to learn and start to understand and start to grow because of that. And if I'm a tutor and I'm tutoring your class, same content, I'm tutoring someone in Alaska and I'm tutoring someone in South Africa, I'm one tutor. I'm starting to learn all this information about the interactions all around the world, and I become pretty smart about that content. So in this new learning system that I've dreamt up with my team, is that student-centered and self-paced. We need instant, intelligent feedback. It needs to be adaptive and formative. It has to build confidence in the learner because we don't want to beat them down, just like how I got beat down in the education system. Mobile, it has to be mobile. It has to be able to work on PC, laptops, tablets, and future, whatever it is, eyewear. So we're doing that. And we want to make it a lifelong journey. So we're always looking for partners. We've got teachers using it, got districts using it, got publishers, corporate. It's one of those things that we're looking and seeking more people to join our bandwagon to figure out best ways to make a better learning system that's smarter, more effective for our students. So take out your smartphones if you want to figure out how to find me. I'm on all various social networks. And the system I'm describing is called KP Compass because we put knowledge into practice, and Compass is your guide. Thank you very much.